The American Revolution was rooted in the biblical ideas of its founders and ended in success for over 250 years of stability. The French Revolution, however, was rooted in atheistic humanist ideas and ended in 10 years of chaos, death, and tyranny. Stay tuned for a Revival Radio TV story that you've never heard before, and you'll learn the importance of a biblical foundation. In the years leading up to and including the American Revolution, there was a nexus of Christian leaders, including preachers like George Whitefield and John Witherspoon, and philosophers like Adam Smith and William Blackstone. All of these guys were contemporaries, and they knew and they respected each other's work. Now, Whitefield, who spread the Great Awakening to America, recruited Witherspoon from Scotland to be head of Princeton, where he taught most of the founders from Adam Smith's book on morals. Blackstone's book, English Common Law, was so full of scriptures that Finney got saved studying the law. Blackstone went to school with this guy, Edmund Burke. These guys were not the American founding fathers, but they influenced them. I like calling them the founders' uncles, and they were part of setting the stage for the American Revolution that took place in between the revival fires of the First and the Second Great Awakenings. But let's talk today about this guy, Edmund Burke. He was one of those founding uncles of what God was doing in America. Burke was a member of the British Parliament, and he spoke out in defense of the Americans. He said from the House of Commons that the Americans were Englishmen and just wanted their rights under the English Constitution. He was proposing that England address their grievances and avoid war.
Edmund Burke was an Irish statesman. He was a philosopher and a writer, but he's widely regarded as the father of modern conservatism. He was even a voice for the rights of colonial America way back in the British Parliament. But he's best remembered for his book, Reflections on the Revolution in France. That was published in 1790. It's a very powerful, strong critique of the French Revolution and its principles. Now, Burke argued that the French Revolution was based on a very, very dangerous and very radical ideology. It sought to completely upend traditional and social political structures. He believed now that the revolutionaries were blinded, completely blinded by the commitment to abstract concepts such as liberty, equality, and that their attempts would impose these ideas on a society. It would end up and lead to chaos and violence. He was right. Burke's opposition to the French Revolution was based on his belief in the importance of tradition, stability, and hierarchy. He argued that society is a very complex, extremely delicate organism. It can't be just re-engineered by political theories and activists. Instead, he believed that change should be gradual, organic, and guided by the accumulated wisdom of the past.
Today, I want to talk about his book. Edmund Burke saw the threat to Christian society and even the existence of Western civilization that was emerging as the new atheism and humanist thought coming out of the European Enlightenment.
Now, in its day, Burke's book was very controversial when it was first published, but very quickly became a classic of political philosophy. Its influence can be seen in the work of later conservative thinkers, such as the evangelical conservatives in the American Republican Party, who also stressed the importance of tradition, order, and biblical truths. His ideas continue to be very influential on the conservative thought for today.
He saw the dangers in what was happening on the continent under the momentum of the anti-Christian Enlightenment ideas that was about to drive France off the cliff in secular humanism, revolution, then chaos, because they were abandoning the fundamental rights of the individual in favor of the collective.
imagine a group of revolutionaries, tired of tyranny, hungry for liberty, and ready to throw off the chains of political oppression. They are prepared to risk everything for freedom. They want an end to the monarchy. They want a democratic form of government based on we the people. So they launched this revolution for human freedom, and to the amazement of the world, they were successful. They overthrew the old regime, they defeated the king and his army, and they declared a unique document titled The Rights of Man. The values of the revolution are the legacy of the Age of Enlightenment. The motto, Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, first appeared during the French Revolution. But something went terribly wrong with this revolution, and instead of liberty, equality, and fraternity, we got new forms of oppression and human misery. Instead of a quest for enlightenment, we got crackdowns on free speech and the freedom of the press, and they did away with the freedom of religion. Instead of democracy and the rule of law, we got a mob rule and the reigns of terror. I'm talking, of course, about the French Revolution. It began with a rage against absolute power, but it ended with a government powerless to govern and a dictator for life.
So why did this happen? One reason was that the leaders of the revolution were true believers in the humanist principles of the European Enlightenment instead of biblical principles. The underlying difference is the worldview of the nature of man. Is man basically good and therefore shaped by his environment? Or does man have a fallen nature as described in the Bible? And therefore you have to build in safeguards to restrain human nature and police it, while still protecting individual God-given rights. The leaders of the revolution rejected God and absolute truth. So this also included the rights of man. Since they were not absolute or God-given, they were all violated at some point in the revolution in the name of the common good over the rights of the individual. Thomas Paine is famous for his book Common Sense, written during the American Revolution.
Born in England, Paine immigrated to America, where he became a prominent advocate for American independence. He is best known for his book, Common Sense, which was published in 1776 and helped galvanize support for the American Revolution. Paine's Common Sense was a powerful and persuasive pamphlet that argued that the American colonies should declare their independence from Great Britain. The pamphlet made a compelling case for independence, using simple and straightforward language that appealed to ordinary people. It quickly became a bestseller and helped turn the tide of public opinion in favor of independence. Thomas Paine's Common Sense was not at all like his writings at the end of his life. In Common Sense, Paine uses arguments from Scripture, and in this way credits Scripture with authority in matters of human government. This was because most of Common Sense was written by Dr. Benjamin Rush for the scripturally literate American audience.